Everybody, TJ Mac Vintage Cards and Nostalgia here, and in today's video I'm just going to speak to a special memory involving my father-in-law, my dad, and these two great players from the 50s and 60s, and Harvey Keene and Rocky Colavito. And my father-in-law, I've talked before, was an Indians fan, and my dad was a Yankees fan, but Colavito and K-Line were two of his favorites because my grandfather took him to see the Tigers when he was a kid, so he always was a fan of Rocky Colavito. And my father-in-law was, like I said, a big Indians fan, and he just liked baseball in general. And when he was sick, I would take him to doctor's appointments frequently towards the end of his life, and we would talk often about baseball, especially from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And he would often mention the year that Rocky Colavito was traded to the Detroit Tigers for Harvey Keene. And it was the year that they traded the 1959 batting champion in Harvey Keene, who hit .353 in 1959, for the home run champion, Rocky Colavito, who tied Harmon Killebrew with 42 home runs that year. So the trade happened on April 17th, 1960, and when that trade happened, the Cleveland Indians were playing an exhibition game against the White Sox in Memphis, Tennessee, and Colavito had hit a home run in the first inning. And then in the fourth inning, he got on a fielder's choice when he was called in for a pinch runner. When he got to the dugout, manager Joe Gordon had said that you've been traded to the Detroit Tigers for the batting champion Harvey Keene. And what happened after that was they went back to Cleveland. The season started on opening day, and the Indians actually played the Tigers in Cleveland. So Colavito basically left the Indians and went to the Detroit Tigers hotel. So there were over 52,000 fans at that opening day, and a lot of Cleveland fans were furious over this trade. Rocky Colavito was popular. He was 26 years old at the time. In 1958 and 1959, he had more home runs and RBIs than either Mickey Mantle or Willie Mays, and he was just somebody that was a fan favorite. The Indians general manager, his name was Frank Lane. He was known as Trader Frank. He was breaking up that Indians team, even though they came within 5 games of the Chicago White Sox for the 1959 pennant. He was trying to break that team up and trade a lot of the pieces away. And Colavito and him were at odds over Colavito's contract. He did end up signing for $35,000 a year, but Lane put a bonus in there of $1,000 that would kick in if Colavito hit less than 40 home runs. And that's right, less than 40 home runs, he would get the bonus, because he thought that would do more to raise his batting average and decrease his strikeouts. Because one of the reasons why they wanted Keene is because he was a better average hitter than Colavito was, although Colavito really wasn't that bad. So the trade ended up happening. The fans were rooting, many of them, for Colavito that day, even though he was on Detroit. He went 0 for 6 in that opening game, but then the next game he ended up hitting a home run. So he got his revenge. The trade worked out much better for the Indians than it did for the Tigers. For the Tigers than it did for the Indians. The Tigers in 1961 ended up only finishing, I think it was 4 or 5 games back of the historic 61 Yankees team. That was just a loaded Tigers team that just happened to be a special year for the Yankees. Harvey Keene was actually shipped off to San Francisco at the end of the 1960 season, so it didn't work out too well for the Indians. What's really cool about these two cards, though, and I'm going to focus in on each one of them. So here's the Harvey Keene, first of all. Just a nice, colorful, sharp-looking example of this card. I just love the differentiation in colors in Harvey Keene's name there, and you got the logo, the 2 pictures on the card. Great use of color. Just a sharp-looking card. But what I find interesting about this card is if you flip it on its back, it says right here that Harvey won the American League batting title last year, which would have been 1959. And here's the Colavito, another sharp-looking example. I love the blue block there behind his photo there on the left, and then you got the Indians logo, and then it's the same color scheme there, just instead of the orange and white, you got the black and red in his name. If you flip the card over, it says that Rocky was tied with Killebrew for the Homer crown last year. So it actually speaks to their achievements the previous season, which I think is a really cool detail with this, because if you were a kid in 1960 and you were opening these packs in Cleveland, let's say, or Detroit, and you were upset about this trade, you're going to be reminded that Rocky Colavito was on the Indians at the beginning of that season, or that Harvey Keene was on the Detroit Tigers. I gotta think that a lot of kids, especially in the Cleveland area, were very upset when they tore into these packs that year. So these are the things that I just love about this hobby, is that when you can make these connections. And I just, love the cards that just have the great look to them, because I do enjoy displaying them, and I can look at them and it just takes me back to that time in the car with my father-in-law and driving to those appointments and just thinking about what he thought of that trade. And I just really soaked in what he was telling me about his experience as a kid growing up during that era, and just how much he loved baseball and followed the players. And I'm just so thankful that I had that time with him, and that I have these cards to remember him by, and also many of the magazines that he's given me as well. So today's magazine is from my father-in-law's collection that he had given to the family. It's the August 1972 Sport magazine. It's a newsstand edition. There's no subscription labels on this magazine, be it peeled off or still affixed to it. So this one came right from the newsstand. Beautiful conditioned cover. I just again, the magazines give you that contemporary viewpoint of the players. You can see how important and regarded they were if they were on the covers of the magazines. You get some idea of the headlines of the day. And then, I do thumb through these. Not so much anymore, but when I first got them, I would open them up and just look at them. Now I'm just trying to conserve them for my family going forward, because they are just a piece of us as a family, just having that reflected in our collection. This was something that my father-in-law enjoyed doing, is reading these magazines. And here it is up close. You can just see these are very well cared for. He wasn't, like I said, looking so much to collect them per se, but he did save them. And what I like to do with the magazines is pair them up with cards from my collection, just for that added connection. So here's a 72 Topps Tom Seaver to go along with the 72 magazine. There's a closer view. That's a real sharp-looking, colorful card as well, with the Mets lettering coming out at you. It's a raised lettering, and just has the yellow underneath the black lettering on it. Just gives you that theater marquee feel. Then you got the red inset color. And then I just like players that wear jackets for whatever reason. Looks like a spring training shot, him in a posed finish to a pitch, it looks like, with that blue jacket on. Just a nice card. And Tom Seaver, in 1972, he was 21-12 with a 2.92 ERA, All-Star, 5th in the Cy Young voting. Just a typical Tom Seaver type season. He had actually led the National League in strikeouts 5 of 7 years during that period. This wasn't one of those years, though. He actually finished second that year with 249 strikeouts. There's the Tom Seaver. Just enjoy those connections between the magazines and cards. And I want to end the video by sharing a card that I got from Scott at Reindeer Studios. He had reached out to me, got my address, and I just really appreciated that. Scott's a good guy in this community and very thoughtful person, and it meant a lot that he had sent me a card, and I'm just going to open it up now. It says, "Hey Terry, I hope this finds you well and that you and your family have an awesome Christmas. Thanks for the support and thanks for making great content. Keep being a superstar, your pal Scott." And then he had given me this 1977 Topps Thurman Munson. And I like this Munson card. I had replied back to him in text that it's got a real authentic smile on his face, which I just enjoy when I look at this card. I don't think Thurman Munson had a bad card. And this one's a little different than some of his other ones, again, because of that smile. And that's what I like about it. So thanks very much, Scott. I appreciate the thought. I know some others received a package along with Scott from Charlie and Yumi, who are fans in Japan. So it says, "You have fans in Japan. God bless you, Charlie and Yumi." And that's real moving to know that there are people that appreciate your content beyond just the United States. I know there's some that I correspond with in France, like Fabian, and also in Canada, like Mike, Canadian Collector, or Canadian Cards. I'm sorry, Mike. And it's just nice to know that there are fans of your channel, and the feeling's mutual with Mike and his channel. I don't know if Charlie and Yumi have a channel, but it's just nice to know that they appreciate what we do as content creators. And I got some items to go through, like a pocket guide, and just I got to learn a little bit about the league here, the Nippon Professional Baseball League. So it's got the teams here, and then just some history here of past series that I got to go through. And then I also got a pack. I did open the pack ahead of time because I saw Alex's video and he was struggling with his pack. So I opened my pack ahead of time, and I'll just show some of the cards off here. So we got Tanaka right on the top. So he played for the Yankees. I assume it's the same Tanaka. Looks like him. And then I don't know all these other players very well. I'm just going to set them down easy here. So I got some learning to do. That's a very, wow, look at the shine on that card. That one as well. Nice looking cards. I got, again, some learning to do here. And I know Alex in his video got at least 1 or 2 U.S. Name players. I didn't get any, so I'm struggling with the names a little bit. But that's part of the fun in expanding your insights on baseball and things like that, is just by it's through learning and getting exposure. So I really want to appreciate Charlie and Yumi for sending this package out through Scott and getting this into my collection. So thanks so much. That's all I have for today, and have a great weekend.